And we begin this Sunday morning with a spotlight on the Department of Justice amidst new damning testimony against President Joe Biden, followed by a new civil verdict against President Donald Trump. Longtime Hunter Biden business associate Tony Bobulinski testified behind closed doors on Capitol Hill this week, telling the House Oversight and Judiciary Committees, in part, despite repeated denials from President Biden that he was not involved in his son's overseas business dealings, quote, "They're lying. It's a blatant lie. You have stacks of evidence that show Joe Biden showed up at meetings, shook hands, participated in phone calls, all the way back to last summer. Just him being on the phone is evidence of involvement and enabling the transaction," says Bobulinski, whose testimony also coincides with another Hunter Biden business associate, Rob Walker, who told the committees Joe Biden attended a meeting where officials from the Chinese energy company CEFC were present, while Walker simultaneously denied Biden was involved in their business affairs. Meanwhile, special counsel David Weiss charged a longtime trusted FBI informant with making false statements after he testified that Joe and Hunter Biden received $5 million apiece in bribes from the Ukrainian energy company Burisma. In a statement, House Oversight Committee Chairman Congressman James Comer said FBI Director Christopher Wray refused to release the form detailing what the informant said, claiming it would jeopardize the safety of the confidential human source, who they said was invaluable and was being paid six figures by the Bureau. Comer shot back, saying, quote, "The impeachment inquiry is not reliant on the FBI's FD 1023 form, but rather it is based on a large record of evidence, including bank records and witness testimony, revealing that Joe Biden knew of and participated in his family's business deals." Here's Comer with me on Thursday on Fox Business, telling me he sent a subpoena this week to American Express, suggesting China was paying the credit card bills for the Biden family.
We know that there was a pretty extensive money laundering scheme. We know that they used a complex series of transactions through what I consider shell companies. A shell company, as your viewers know full well, is a company with no assets or no known purpose. And this was a complex way to try to deceive the IRS and to operate in the shady manner that they operated. One of the things that you'll notice on all of the bank statements is a lot of payments to credit cards. And they were various credit cards.
Then, after all of this, late Friday, Judge Arthur Engoron released his verdict in New York Attorney General Letitia James's fraud trial against President Trump, ordering Trump to pay more than $355 million in fines, while barring Trump from serving as an officer or director of any New York corporation or other legal entity in New York for a period of 3 years. Of course, New York, where he built his empire. Joining me right now with more in this Sunday Morning Futures exclusive is Texas Republican Senator Ted Cruz. Senator, great to see you this morning. Thanks for being here.
Good morning, Maria. Great to be with you.
Your reaction to all of this?
Look, I think we are seeing a systematic and sustained assault on the rule of law. We're seeing an assault on the Constitution, and we're seeing fundamentally an assault on democracy. What has happened in Washington, it's really frightening and it's really sad. Democrats have become radicalized, and they have decided that partisan politics matters more than the rule of law. They're willing to weaponize the Department of Justice. They're willing to utterly abuse government power to try to stay in power. The judge's decision in New York is an outrage. This was a partisan Democrat judge adjudicating on a case brought by a partisan Democrat attorney general. Letitia James campaigned on saying, "I'm going to get Donald Trump." She got in front of this smirking, sanctimonious partisan Democrat who then, in that case, understand this judge just ordered Donald Trump to pay over $350 million for an offense that had no victim, that involved giant international banks that made money, didn't lose money, and that were eager to loan more money. And the entire thesis of it was, well, they say Trump overstated the value of his real estate. The last I checked, these banks were not fragile, vulnerable consumers. They went in and valued the real estate. They were eager to make the loans. They made money on it, and they wanted to make more. But what this is about power and trying to destroy Donald Trump. Why? Because ultimately, this is about attacking democracy. They want to stop the voters from voting for Donald Trump. It is dangerous, the brazen cynicism with which they're willing to abuse the justice system to try and stay in power at all costs.
Well, I mean, all of this, as it is so clear that there is a serious difference between the priorities between the Republicans and the Democrats. Right now, your colleagues are sending or wanting to send more money to Ukraine, and you have yet to secure the southern border, where we are watching potential terrorists come in, fentanyl come in, Chinese nationals coming in. We don't know what's behind that. What is the fate of this $95 billion package with $60 billion going to Ukraine?
Well, I think the foreign aid bill that was rammed through by Democrats in the Senate, I think it's going nowhere in the House. They know that. The bill was all about political camouflage. It was all about giving Chuck Schumer and Democrats the ability to pretend to want to do something on the border while at the same time doing nothing. And understand, the border issue and the abuse of the rule of law in the Department of Justice, they're ultimately the same issue, which is the willingness to put partisan interest of Democrats above everything else. We've seen an invasion at our southern border under Joe Biden. We've seen 10.4 million illegal immigrants cross the border, invading principally my home state of Texas, but coming to every state in the union. And the Democrats affirmatively want that. They're okay with that. They're fine with the body bags, with the people who are dead, with the children who are assaulted, with the women who are raped. They're fine with the 100,000 Americans who died of overdoses last year. All of those are acceptable consequences to Democrats, because they look at that 10.4 million illegal immigrants and they see future Democrat voters, and partisan power is all that matters. Let me commend the House of Representatives. They impeached Alejandro Mayorkas. That was the right thing to do, and I believe the Senate should convict him. Why? Because he actively aided and abetted the criminal invasion of the United States. He aided and abetted Mexican drug cartels that have made billions of dollars exploiting human beings, undermining public safety in America, and posing an incredible national security threat. And Joe Biden and congressional Democrats are accomplices in this chaos that is unfolding in our country.
Well, then who's to blame in the Senate? Because it seems like all of the Republican efforts die in the Senate. We know what's going to happen to this impeachment of Mayorkas. When it gets to the Senate, it's going nowhere. Mayorkas keeps his job. We know that the House did H.R. 2. It went nowhere in the Senate. Is that Mitch McConnell? Who's responsible?
Sadly, it is. Look, it's Chuck Schumer, number one, and Chuck Schumer is helping drive the train. Listen, we know Joe Biden's not driving the train, so it's a combination of left-wing congressional Democrats and I think Barack Obama that are driving the train, and Joe Biden is Mr. Magoo just wandering around confused. You look at the Senate. Senate Democrats want to do nothing to fix the border. They want to do nothing to turn the economy around. They want to do nothing to stop the crime we're seeing. And I got to tell you, with the Mayorkas impeachment, you know what Schumer wants to do? He doesn't even want to have a trial. He doesn't even want to have senators vote on guilty or not guilty. What he's trying to do is simply table it, just put it aside. In over 200 years of our nation's history, the Senate has never once tabled articles of impeachment. That has never happened. Every single time the Senate has voted on either guilt or innocence, or the House has withdrawn the impeachment. In this instance, Joe Biden wants to protect even every Senate Democrat from voting whether Mayorkas is guilty or not. He is guilty. Ultimately, Joe Biden is guilty, but Mayorkas was the lead henchman in opening up the southern border. And I got to say, look, if Republican leadership in the Senate doesn't like the criticism, here's an opportunity to demonstrate some backbone. They could stand up and say, let's have a trial. They can stand up and say, you cannot refuse to even follow the constitutional process for impeachment. You can't dodge responsibility. That's what Schumer and the Democrats want to do.
Do you believe Mitch McConnell will not run for re-election should Donald Trump win in 2024?
I don't know. That's a decision for Mitch to make. Obviously, there's a lot of bad blood between Mitch McConnell and Donald Trump. Mitch will have to make that decision. What I want to see is Republicans in the Senate stand and lead and fight. I believe November is going to be a very good election. I think we're going to see Donald Trump reelected as president of the United States. I think we're going to see Republicans keep and grow our majority in the House. And critically, I think we're going to win the United States Senate. Now, I will say my race here in Texas is a battleground race. The Democrats are spending over $100 million. Chuck Schumer's made clear I'm his #1 target. George Soros is pouring millions of dollars into the state of Texas. My last race, as you know, Maria, I won by less than 3 points because I'm the Democrats' top target. And so I'm grateful for the people all across the country that go to tedcruz.org, that make contributions, that support our campaign, because I'll give you my word, I'm going to keep fighting for the rule of law, for the Constitution, for the Bill of Rights, and I'm going to keep fighting to secure the border, even as we see these radicals undermine our safety.
As you seek your 3rd Senate term this November, are you concerned about the weaponization of government, which is where we started this conversation? Are you concerned about election integrity for this upcoming election?
Look, of course, we have seen that the Democrats are willing to cross any line, cross any boundary. You know, it's really striking. Leftists, if you look at their rhetoric, what they accuse their opponents of doing is what they're doing. What's the favorite line of Democrats right now? They say, assault on democracy, assault on democracy. This is literally simultaneously, while they brought 4 indictments against the leading Republican candidate for president, simultaneously while 2 different states have tried to throw Donald Trump off the ballot. Yep. Why? What is the purpose of all of this? To stop the voters from voting for their opponent. Literally, their rhetoric, assault on democracy, is precisely what they're doing. Democrats and a lot of folks in the corporate media are fond of saying, well, Trump will be a dictator. The irony is, you look at Joe Biden's record, he has repeatedly ignored the law. He did things like vaccine mandates in the government that were blatantly illegal. The Supreme Court struck him down, but he didn't care. He did things like try to give away over $1 trillion in student loan forgiveness that was blatantly illegal. The Supreme Court struck it down, but he didn't care. And so it is dangerous, the willingness of Democrats to weaponize government, and they put partisan politics above national security and above the safety of Americans.
Senator, thank you very much for being here this morning. We so appreciate your time. Senator Ted Cruz in Texas
Maria.
this morning. Thank you, sir.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.